What if the person you cannot stop thinking about is not being kept from you by fate, but by a version of yourself that no longer belongs in your future? Because there is something that must happen before this connection can fully enter your life. And once you understand it, every delay, every silence, and every unexpected turn will suddenly make sense. If this message is resonating with you so far, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And tell me below, what lesson do you believe life is trying to teach you through this connection? I'd love to read your thoughts. Most people believe that destiny is about discovering the special person who will finally bring meaning, happiness, and completion into their lives. They spend years searching for signs, waiting for the perfect encounter, or wondering whether someone is the one. Yet this perspective overlooks a deeper truth. The most important part of any destined connection is not the other person. It is the version of yourself that the connection requires. A meaningful relationship cannot thrive simply because two people are attracted to each other. It survives and grows because both individuals possess the emotional maturity, self-awareness, and inner stability needed to sustain it. This is why so many powerful connections seem to arrive before we are truly ready for them. We meet someone who awakens something profound within us, yet circumstances become complicated, timing feels wrong, misunderstandings emerge, distance appears. The connection may feel undeniable, but it refuses to unfold in the way we expect. Often, this is not because the relationship is impossible. It is because life is revealing the areas where growth is still needed. The connection becomes a mirror, exposing fears, insecurities, and unresolved patterns that must be addressed before something lasting can be built. Many people focus their energy on changing the other person or trying to control the outcome of the relationship. They analyze every message, every interaction, and every sign, hoping to find certainty. But the more they look outward, the more frustrated they become. The real work lies elsewhere. It lies in examining the parts of themselves that seek validation, fear rejection, or depend on another person for a sense of worth. Until these inner conflicts are understood, even the most promising relationship can become burdened by expectations it was never meant to carry. Personal transformation is often the hidden purpose behind a significant connection. The person who enters your life may unknowingly trigger a process of self-discovery. They awaken strengths you never recognized and expose weaknesses you have avoided. This process can feel uncomfortable because growth rarely arrives in a gentle form. It challenges old beliefs and forces you to confront aspects of yourself that have remained hidden. Yet this inner work is precisely what prepares you for the deeper relationship you seek. Without it, the connection may remain trapped in cycles of longing, confusion, and disappointment. The paradox is that when you become the person capable of sustaining a healthy and meaningful relationship, your perspective begins to change. You stop chasing certainty and start cultivating inner stability. You no longer view love as something that completes you, but as something that complements the wholeness you have already developed within yourself. At that point, destiny is no longer about finding the right person. It becomes about being ready when the right opportunity arrives. And often, it is only after this transformation takes place that a truly destined connection can finally unfold in its fullest form. One of the most overlooked truths about relationships is that people rarely enter them as blank slates. Every person carries invisible emotional scars from the past, memories of rejection, abandonment, betrayal, criticism, or disappointment. These experiences do not simply disappear with time. Instead, they settle beneath the surface of awareness and quietly influence the way we think, feel, and connect with others. When left unexamined, these wounds become powerful forces that shape our relationships. They create patterns that repeat themselves again and again, often preventing the very love we desire from fully entering our lives. What makes these wounds particularly challenging is that they tend to operate unconsciously. A person may genuinely believe they are seeking love, yet unknowingly sabotage opportunities for connection. Someone who fears abandonment may become overly attached and anxious. Someone who has been deeply hurt may keep emotional walls so high that no one can truly get close. Others may repeatedly choose emotionally unavailable partners, recreating familiar pain without realizing why. The conscious mind seeks happiness, but the unconscious mind often seeks familiarity, even when that familiarity leads to suffering. This is why the same relationship struggles often appear in different forms throughout life. The faces change, the circumstances change, yet the emotional experience remains remarkably similar. A person may find themselves repeatedly feeling ignored, unappreciated, rejected, or controlled. It can seem as though fate is being cruel, but something deeper is taking place. Life is presenting the same lesson through different situations, inviting awareness and healing. Until the underlying wound is recognized, the pattern continues. The problem is not always the people entering your life. Sometimes it is the unresolved pain influencing how you relate to them. A meaningful union requires more than attraction or compatibility. It requires the ability to meet another person without allowing old wounds to dictate the relationship. This means learning to separate the present from the past. It means recognizing when fear is speaking louder than reality. It means understanding that not every disagreement is abandonment, not every delay is rejection, and not every challenge is proof that love is disappearing. As emotional awareness grows, the grip of old wounds begins to weaken. The relationship is no longer forced to carry the weight of unresolved history. The moment healing begins, relationships start to change. You become less reactive and more conscious. You stop expecting another person to repair what only you can heal within yourself. Instead of repeating old cycles, you begin creating new possibilities. The patterns that once seemed unavoidable lose their power. And perhaps most importantly, you become capable of recognizing genuine love when it appears. A meaningful union is often blocked not by a lack of destiny, but by wounds that have not yet been healed. Once those wounds are brought into the light, the path toward deeper connection becomes clearer than ever before. Have you ever met someone and felt an immediate connection that seemed impossible to explain? Perhaps there was something about them that captured your attention from the very beginning. You thought about them constantly, felt unusually affected by their words, or experienced emotions far stronger than the situation appeared to justify. Most people assume this happens because the other person possesses some special quality. Yet the deeper explanation is often found within ourselves. What attracts us so powerfully is not always who the other person is, but what they awaken inside us. The human mind contains vast regions that remain outside conscious awareness. Hidden desires, fears, strengths, insecurities, and unrealized potential often exist beneath the surface. Because these qualities are difficult to recognize within ourselves, we tend to encounter them through other people. Someone may embody confidence that we secretly wish to possess. Another may express vulnerability that we have spent years suppressing. Sometimes we are drawn to qualities we admire, and other times we become fascinated by traits that challenge or even disturb us. In either case, The attraction is revealing something about our own inner world. This process often explains why relationships can feel so intense in the early stages. We unconsciously project parts of ourselves onto another person, imagining them to be the source of feelings that actually originate within us. We may see them as perfect, uniquely special, or capable of completing something missing in our lives. Yet over time, reality begins to replace the projection. We start seeing the person more clearly, including their flaws and limitations. For many, this is where disappointment begins. But for those willing to look deeper, it becomes an opportunity for self-discovery. The most significant people in our lives often act as mirrors. They reflect aspects of ourselves that we have ignored, denied, or failed to develop. A relationship may expose hidden fears of rejection. It may reveal a need for approval, a fear of intimacy, or a longing for personal growth. At the same time, it can uncover strengths we never knew existed. The connection becomes less about possessing the other person and more about understanding the psychological forces they have brought to the surface. In this way, every meaningful relationship serves as a teacher, revealing truths that might otherwise remain hidden for years. When we recognize this dynamic, our perspective on love begins to change. Instead of asking only, "Why am I attracted to this person?" we begin asking, "What part of myself is this person reflecting back to me?" That question opens the door to profound growth. The relationship is no longer just a search for companionship. It becomes a journey toward greater self-awareness. And often, the hidden purpose of a powerful connection is not simply to bring two people together, but to help each person discover parts of themselves that were waiting to be seen. Few experiences are more frustrating than feeling a strong connection with someone while circumstances seem determined to keep you apart. The timing never feels right. Opportunities appear and disappear. Communication becomes inconsistent. One person moves forward while the other seems stuck. In these moments, it is easy to assume that the delays are meaningless obstacles or evidence that the connection is not meant to be. Yet some of life's most important periods of growth occur during these very seasons of waiting. What appears to be a setback on the surface may actually be serving a deeper psychological purpose. Human beings naturally want immediate answers and quick resolutions. We prefer certainty over ambiguity and movement over stillness. However, personal development rarely follows this preference. There are times when life creates distance not to punish us, but to reveal what we cannot see when we are focused entirely on another person. During separation, hidden emotions often rise to the surface. Fears that were once buried become impossible to ignore. Attachments become visible. Expectations reveal themselves. The absence of the other person creates a space in which we are forced to confront aspects of ourselves that would otherwise remain hidden. This is why periods of delay can be surprisingly transformative. Without realizing it, many people enter relationships carrying emotional needs that have little to do with love itself. They seek reassurance, validation, security, or escape from loneliness. As long as the relationship remains available, these deeper needs often stay concealed. But when distance appears, the truth becomes harder to avoid. The discomfort of waiting exposes the difference between genuine love and emotional dependency. It challenges a person to develop inner strength rather than relying entirely on another individual for stability and happiness. Growth during separation is not always obvious. It often happens quietly through reflection, experience, and self-discovery. Both individuals may be learning lessons that cannot be rushed. One may be developing confidence, while the other learns emotional vulnerability. One may be releasing old fears, while the other is discovering what truly matters. From the outside, these developments can seem unrelated to the relationship itself. Yet they are often preparing each person for a future version of the connection that would have been impossible before. The delay becomes part of the preparation rather than an interruption of the journey. When viewed from this perspective, separation takes on a different meaning. Instead of seeing it solely as loss, it can be understood as a period of transformation. The distance is not necessarily evidence that something is wrong. Sometimes it is evidence that something important is still unfolding beneath the surface. The connection may not be ready because the individuals themselves are not yet ready. And when the necessary growth has taken place, what once seemed like an obstacle may reveal itself as a crucial step in the process. In this way, separation and delays are not always keeping two people apart. They may be preparing them to meet again in a deeper, healthier, and more authentic way. Many people believe that a relationship will be the event that changes their life. They imagine that once the right person arrives, everything will naturally fall into place. Their insecurities will disappear, their loneliness will fade, and their sense of purpose will become clear. Yet experience repeatedly teaches a different lesson. A relationship does not automatically transform a person. More often, it reveals who they already are. If fear, insecurity, and emotional confusion exist before the relationship begins, those same issues will eventually appear within the relationship itself. This is why personal transformation is not something that happens after lasting love arrives. It is often what makes lasting love possible in the first place. The challenge is that transformation requires confronting parts of ourselves we would rather avoid. Most people can recognize the flaws of others, but far fewer are willing to examine their own patterns with complete honesty. They may blame circumstances, timing, or past partners for their struggles, while overlooking the habits and beliefs that continue to shape their experiences. True growth begins when a person takes responsibility for their inner world. Instead of asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" they begin asking, "What is this experience trying to teach me about myself?" That shift in perspective marks the beginning of genuine transformation. A meaningful relationship demands qualities that can only be developed through inner work. Patience, emotional stability, self-respect, honesty, and self-awareness are not gifts that appear overnight. They are cultivated through experience, reflection, and deliberate effort. Without these qualities, even the strongest attraction can become overwhelmed by misunderstanding and conflict. Two people may care deeply for one another, yet still struggle if they are carrying unresolved fears or unrealistic expectations. Transformation creates the emotional foundation upon which a healthy relationship can stand. This process often feels uncomfortable because growth involves letting go of familiar identities. A person may need to release the belief that they are unworthy of love. Another may need to abandon the habit of seeking approval from others. Some must learn to trust, while others must learn to establish boundaries. These changes can feel like losing a part of oneself, but in reality, they are making room for a stronger and more authentic version to emerge. The old patterns that once provided a sense of security gradually lose their influence, allowing healthier ways of relating to take their place. When personal transformation reaches a certain depth, relationships begin to change naturally. You no longer approach love from a place of lack or desperation. You stop looking for someone to rescue you from yourself, and instead seek a partnership built on mutual growth and respect. The connection becomes less about filling an emotional void and more about sharing a meaningful journey with another person. This is why transformation often comes before lasting love. Life prepares the individual before it fully reveals the relationship. And when that preparation is complete, what once seemed impossible can finally become sustainable. Because the person entering the relationship is no longer who they used to be. One of the greatest illusions in relationships is the belief that we see other people exactly as they are. In reality, we often see them through the lens of our own hopes, fears, desires, and expectations. When we first become deeply attracted to someone, it is easy to imagine qualities that may not actually exist. We create an idealized image and unconsciously place it over the real person standing before us. This process feels exciting because it allows us to experience possibility, fantasy, and emotional intensity. Yet it also prevents us from truly knowing the other individual. What we are relating to is not always the person themselves, but the image we have created in our minds. Projection occurs when we assign our hidden desires or unresolved issues to another person. We may believe they possess all the happiness we seek, all the answers we lack, or all the qualities needed to complete us. In doing so, we place enormous expectations upon the relationship. The other person becomes a symbol rather than a human being. We stop seeing their complexity, their struggles, and their imperfections. Instead, we become attached to an idealized version that exists largely within our own imagination. While this can create intense emotional experiences, it rarely leads to lasting partnership, because reality can never fully compete with fantasy. Eventually, however, every meaningful relationship reaches a turning point. The projection begins to fade. The perfect image starts to crack. Flaws become visible. Differences emerge. The person reveals aspects of themselves that do not fit the story we originally created. Many relationships end at this stage because people mistake the collapse of the illusion for the loss of love. They believe something has gone wrong, when in fact something important is finally beginning. For the first time, they have an opportunity to encounter the real person instead of the imagined one. Authentic recognition requires courage, because it asks us to accept reality without distortion. It means seeing another person as they truly are, not as a savior, not as an ideal, and not as a solution to our problems. It means acknowledging both their strengths and their limitations while allowing them the freedom to be human. At the same time, it requires seeing ourselves clearly as well. We must recognize our own projections, expectations, and emotional needs. This level of honesty can feel uncomfortable, but it creates the foundation for genuine intimacy. Real connection becomes possible only when illusion no longer stands in the way. True partnership begins at the moment two people stop searching for perfection and start recognizing each other authentically. They no longer relate through fantasy, dependency, or unrealistic expectations. Instead, they meet as two imperfect individuals who understand themselves and each other with greater clarity. This kind of relationship may lack the dramatic intensity of projection, but it possesses something far more valuable: depth, stability, and truth. The strongest partnerships are not built on seeing what we wish to see. They are built on seeing clearly, accepting fully, and choosing one another anyway. That is where authentic love begins, and where lasting partnership becomes possible.